Hey guys, welcome back to Only the Brave. I'm of course your host Dane Smith, and I just want to thank everyone for the amazing response I've been getting from the YouTube viewers, because every Wednesday at 7 p.m. we launch the show on YouTube, and the engagement is so overwhelming. I am so blessed to have you guys in my corner and encouraging, and it's also participating in the messages, because inevitably these conversations are for us to have in our personal spaces with our friends. I mentioned this in one of the videos I had about getting to know the host, that inevitably I really want people to take these conversations to their friendship circles and get to know their friends. And on the topic of getting to know people, I think it's also very important for us to get to know our families, because we kind of sort of don't know them, and it is important for us to ask the correct questions, just so that we can understand where our families come from and also what experiences have shaped them. Because I remember not so long ago, I was trying to understand, where I come from, and I just needed to ask those questions. And then through those conversations, I also got to understand, the dynamics of my family. And some family members, some of them have shared the same experiences in life, and that has also shaped them for who they are today. And just, it was so overwhelming for me to see and hear the similar stories, that were experienced. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's all about that vulnerability and just digging deep. So yes, so that was very inspiring for me, and inspiring in the sense that it made me want to record an episode like this, and it's just basically sharing my story as Dane, and a lot of my friends would know this about me, some not, but hey, here we are. You guys are going to get to know a little bit more about me. So yes, and there's also another thing, so the people who listen to us on where they get their podcast from, they don't necessarily see unless they've joined in on the conversation, is that I do speak with my hands a lot, and I have been challenged to not speak with my hands, so I am here just kind of sitting stiff. We're going to see how long that's going to go. So yeah, so go on this journey with me. So yes, guys, I wrote not so long ago an article on the website as to why I started this podcast. And really, it was just for healing, from my side. I needed to heal, get to know myself, also get to know my family members. And what is the word, man? What is the word? But anyway, through the journey of discovery, I realized that I need to share this, with the strangers out there, with the people who I know and love, just so that we can get to know one another. Because a lot of the times we have this perception of people, and it's not really who they are. We continuously see them through this perception, and that's not the reality, and it's not really truly who they are. So yes, so I wrote this article, and it explains my early childhood, and why I kinda am the person that I am, and I'm trying to really change, not change, but just do better. So yes, so in that letter I write that I was born to teenage parents. My mother was a teenager. My dad, I think he was about 19, 20. I can't really, place his age. But my mother definitely was a young, fresh 16-year-old. She had just turned 16, and she had given birth to me. A lot of my friends always say to me, my gosh, your mother's our age. We should be friends with your mother and not you, because I also have somewhat of an old soul. So a lot of my friends are mature and wise, and we always, this is like our inside joke. So yes, my mom and I, we're growing and going through this life thing together. So yes, she was 16, she had just turned 16, and there I was. And as a 16-year-old girl, you can just imagine, your parents and your family members, they still have a big say, what on the happenings of your life, because you're still a minor. So my mother's aunt, for lack of a better word, kidnapped me, because she felt that my mother was way too young to raise a child. And my mother then had also obviously experienced her own challenges in, I can't imagine a 16-year-old having to raise a little baby. But that's what she wanted to do. I mean, she kept me, so that, speaks volumes, that she wanted to be a part of her child's life. So my mother kept me, and her aunt felt that, nope, you're too young, I'm going to take this child, I'm going to move him all the way to Port Elizabeth, the other side of the country. And my mother had no idea, because this is like back in 1992, expose my age here, and my mother had to go and find work, because now she has a child and a mouth to feed. And so she was at work, and her aunt had taken me to Port Elizabeth, and my mother immediately followed me to her aunt rather, and was trying to get me back to Johannesburg. And her aunt was like, no, there's no way, you're young, you need to finish school. So she had stayed in Port Elizabeth, and she finished her high school, and then she came back to Johannesburg, and she kind of got herself together. She really pushed through, and she was able to, a few years later, then bring me to Johannesburg and, obviously raise me. But I must say that in itself, for me, was a bit traumatizing, because here I am, this infant, and I'm with my birth mother. And for whatever's happening in life, I get taken away from her and what I know, as a child. And then I go and my foundation phase in life is now with someone completely else who's not my birth mother. So I love this person and her family as my birth family. And then a few years later, my actual biological parents now say it's time for you to come back and be with us. So I had to move back to Johannesburg, not understanding what's happening, because I think I was about 9-10 years old, and I'm like, what's going on here? So I had to leave my family in PE, who I had grown to love and built such a bond with. And that for me was a very painful, it was a very painful time for me. I still remember I was with my dad at the time when I moved to Johannesburg, because I was in between my mom and dad. When you are a child from parents who are not together, you kind of juggle the two. So at the time I was with my dad, and I remember just being so sad. And I have siblings, that I had to get to know, and it was such a difficult time for me to adjust. Because here I am trying to make sense of my life right now, and I'm mourning my family who I grew to love and knew in Port Elizabeth. So it was very painful. I can still remember. I vividly remember that part of my life. And so so as a child I grow up, and that's sort of the experiences I have. And my siblings who were born then, and who I'd come to meet, already had built their own bond. So now just imagine this child growing up in Port Elizabeth as a only child. So I come here and I have all these siblings, and I need to readjust, and I'm mourning the loss of my family, getting to know this new family. And fast forward into my adolescence, the cracks start to show, for lack of a better word. I'm very drawn to myself. I don't want to interact with family members, only because now in hindsight I'm like, yes, of course, I was so afraid to get attached to people, because I just thought that at any moment they're going to get ripped away from me. I have to mourn them. I have to learn this new reality, come to terms with it, you know. So for me, it was such an interesting journey, having to overcome that, because only in I think in my early 20s that I realized that I had a problem. You know, my past wasn't the conventional past where people grow up with their parents and life happens, and yeah, you know, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because there are people who go through these experiences. I am now our mouthpiece. I am our ambassador for that. So yes, so in my early 20s, I learned to come to terms with it, because I then needed to see the situation for what it was, because I spent a lot of my time blaming and being very angry toward my parents and my mother's aunt. I was like, why did you have to, these are the conversations I'm having with myself. Why did my mother's aunt have to take me to Port Elizabeth? What would have been, you know, the life I would have had if I had just been with my parents? Would I have been more connected to them? Would they have understood me better? You know, so you just go through that, and just trying to understand that, and then you also cultivate your own relationships, and you're like, maybe is that the reason why, you know, I can't hold on to relationships, because you're also dealing with that trauma. And then you also look at your relationship with your family, you know, constantly running away from your family. I know I was running away from my family. The minute I turned 18, I was like, shut, I'm out. And my family will probably they'll probably watch this and laugh and think, yeah, that was Dane, you know. And it was only because I was not strong enough, and I did not know what to ask them, you know, in terms of how would it have been, you know, if I had grown up with you guys from a really young age? Because a lot of my family members had that with everyone. You know, they were young children, and they had gotten to know certain family members on a very, very deep level. And I just didn't have that, because I was obviously across the country, you know. So I had to look at my situation and say, you know what? It's okay. That happened. It's no one's fault, because no one has the handbook to how a perfect life or an ideal life should look like. So I had to obviously let that go, heal, understand why that had to happen. But then I also saw that, you know, my family members, they also, and I mean, with my mother being such a young mom, the challenges she had to face with her parents as well, because I don't think that was ideal for my granny, because it was somewhat of a generational thing, because my granny had my mother at the very same age, you know, and with my mother, she's constantly wanting to break generational curses in our family, and she's actually obviously achieved that with her generation that she's given birth to. But the relationship my mother and my granny had was very different. You know, there was a little bit of trauma there. People weren't healing enough just because the correct questions weren't asked, you know, just to move forward. And as an adult, I can now see how that all happens and how it all spirals out of control, is that you leave something to fester for so long, and when you are faced with it as an adult in your own personal space, you're like, actually, there are demons I need to go and fight, you know, just so that I can be healthier for myself and for my children and for my husband, and just in your own personal space. And like I said, for yourself, it's very important that we are healthy for ourselves. So yes, so that was my story with my family, and I know people do go through that with their family, because there was someone who wrote in to the show when I had said I'm going to be working on this show about family and stuff, and here it is. So the young guy that wrote, he was like, you know, I had such a difficult experience with my family, and Now as an adult, I feel like I have to pay. I feel like I pay for their love, and I just don't understand what I'm doing wrong, because it's not my fault. He says that my relationship with my parents did not turn out the way it turned out as a child, and now as an adult I feel like I have to buy their love and buy their compassion, because that's the only way. The guy says here that he thinks he can cultivate a connection with his family. And I can understand that, just because we don't have the questions, we don't know how to pose those questions. And what I have found is that there's no way, there's no manual on how to tackle certain situations. You really just have to strip yourself of your ego and tap into that vulnerability and really just say, listen here, I am experiencing a little bit of abandonment issues, and I want to understand why that is so. And, this is a situation, and if you can give me some insight as to what that could be, I would love it, because I think that's how I got my healing. I asked those questions blatantly, and I know it's very, very uncomfortable, but it's so important and it's so powerful because there's so much healing in it. So I just want to encourage this writer who wrote in, just ask those questions. Say, just clearly, blatantly sit down and say, I am feeling this way. Why am I feeling like this? Why is my relationship with you different to what my siblings' relationship is with you, from what he wrote in his email, because he wrote quite a lengthy email, and he was saying that and his siblings don't understand where he's coming from. They like, but our parent, like, I don't have to do that. My relationship with mom is fine. And he's like, no, but my relationship with mom is not fine. And what you as a child did not experience, what I experienced, because we all experience our parents different. So he's also dealing with that with his siblings as well, because his siblings are not understanding that we all do have different experiences with our families, and it's okay with our parents, that is. And it's okay because it's just like with our friends. Our personalities intertwine differently. The things we enjoy doing together, that also just builds the relationship and cultivates the relationship. So and what makes our parents so different, because we are human beings at the end of the day. Our parents weren't given this manual. I am having a drink by the way, because it's a drinkable episode. Yeah, there's no manual to how we need to parent and such. So we need to really look at the situation like, yes, my parents are a human being, and I need to understand this human being. So it's all about understanding one another. And I must say, I'm so grateful for the relationship I've gotten to cultivate with my family, because by me asking the correct questions and also just listening with an open heart has really shaped how our lives are intertwined now, because now they understand me, and now they know that I was not just trying to be rebellious 20-something-year-old Dane and running around the country, just doing anything and everything I wanted to do. It's just I was running away from my reality, like understanding why was I all over the place as a child. I was here, I was there. It was very difficult for me, and I think I took that obviously into my adulthood. I didn't want to find stability. I was so scared of it. But now that I know stability, I am so much stronger, and it's a beautiful space to be in. So I want to encourage all my listeners, those uncomfortable conversations, have them with your family. There's so much beauty, and the beauty about family is that they will never shut you out, because it's always from a good place, especially when it comes to things like healing. So you're asking those questions not because you want to put a blame on anyone, it's because you want to understand why you feel certain ways, and also express your experiences so that they can say, you know what, I did not look at it like that. And thank you for coming to me, because this is what I was going through, and clearly we were going through what we were going through, and we were living past each other. So now we can live with one another, and that for me is just everything. So yes, guys, I'm going to have more conversations like this on my own, just because it's also COVID, and having a guest is so difficult. Just, we are in South Africa, our age group has not been vaccinated as yet, so it's difficult to have guests on the show. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Like, subscribe, engage every Wednesday, not every Wednesday, most Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on YouTube. And wherever you get your podcast from, I am there and I'm here. So engage with me. Thank you so much for watching.